Welcome back to the DubCast. So today I will be reviewing the movie The Last Samurai, released in November of 2003. It was directed by Edward Zwick and features Tom Cruise, Timothy Spall, Ken Watanabe, and Billy Connolly. So, as this is my first movie review, I will kind of run through how these will go. So, to start, I'll kind of give my overarching thoughts in the movie without getting into any spoiler content. And then after I'm done giving my kind of general review, I'll go in through the movie, pick out major plot points, major things that I saw and want to comment on. And then after that, I will give a score on a scale from 0 to 10. And I'll pull up my score explanation here. So for a 0.1 through a 3.0, these movies are described as literally nothing is redeemable by this movie at all. I hated it, and it was a massive waste of time. For a 3.1 through a 4.9, there were little redeeming qualities. A couple things stood out, and it was bearable to watch, but I would not recommend the movie to anyone I know. For a 5.0 through a 5.9, I didn't enjoy this movie as a total experience, but there are redeemable aspects, and I may recommend it to someone if they're super into that genre or a specific actor, something like that. For a 6 to a 6.9, I thought this movie was slightly good, and there were either major aspects I didn't like that overruled the positives, or some really low lows that brought down a solid movie, in my opinion. A 7.0 to a 7.9 is what I consider a good movie, and I enjoyed it and was glad to have watched it. I would recommend, most likely, if people were looking for a movie in this genre or by a certain actor, and I would probably watch this movie again if it was on TV, or if I just felt like watching it again. An 8.0 through an 8.9 is a great movie. I would go back and watch this movie again several times, and I would consider it a top tier film that I have watched. Would recommend to everyone. A 9.0 through a 9.9, these are the best of the best movies I could watch back again and again and again and again, and I would literally bother people to tell them that they need to see this movie if they have not seen it. And then a 10 is reserved for the best movie of all time. Okay, with that being said, let's get into The Last Samurai. So the basis of this movie is Tom Cruise is a part of the U.S. Army, and he is taken as a hostage, sort of, with the samurai. And through this, he is kind of thrust into their culture, and as a prisoner, he kind of learns a lot about being a samurai and kind of the samurai culture, and ends up in these kind of battles with this. So originally he was training an army to take down the last of the samurai, and so in that battle he ends up becoming captured by the samurai, and so throughout we kind of get to learn a lot about the samurai culture. And I think that's definitely one of the major aspects that I really, really enjoyed about this movie. As someone who doesn't really pay attention to the samurai culture or know a lot about the kind of historic Asian warrior kind of mantras or attitudes, this was definitely kind of an educational experience in that aspect. I will say it's not like a tell-all, and you won't learn like everything there is to know, but it was good to kind of be in this setting where you can learn a lot about this group of people, and begin to kind of understand what they were about. And if you're drawn into it, you can find more, but this is kind of like a starter to get you kind of thrust into that culture and setting. So that was something I definitely enjoyed. Oh, I forgot to mention Hans Zimmer is on the soundtrack, and a constant theme that you'll probably see through these movie reviews is I fucking love Hans Zimmer. I think he's the GOAT, and that definitely shines through in this movie. There's a specific scene I'll talk about later in the kind of spoilery section that I really enjoyed his music, but throughout. I thought his music was very solid and definitely a large part of this movie that makes it pretty good, in my opinion. Yeah, so my overall opinion is that it's pretty good. I really definitely enjoyed watching this and would recommend it to a lot of people. We'll get to my score at the end, but definitely for those who haven't watched it and are just watching this first part of the review, I definitely would recommend it to you. That's my overall kind of consensus on it. Other notes, so there's a lot of battle scenes within this movie, and I thought they were pretty epic, especially the ones towards the end of the movie I thought were pretty cool. So if you're into that sort of thing, this is definitely a movie you want to check out. And yeah, something that I've been kind of debating in my mind. So I've seen a lot of time, or I haven't seen a lot of movies, and I recently started on this kind of movie kick about 3 to 5 years ago, and have been trying to like piece together this list, as I mentioned in my intro podcast. So just of what I've seen of Tom Cruise so far, I think this is my favorite Tom Cruise movie that I've seen. And I could go down a list and look, but that'll be boring. But I've seen like The Firm, I've seen Jerry Maguire recently. There's a couple more that I've seen, but just so far right now, I think this is my favorite Tom Cruise movie. Leave in the comments if there's any better Tom Cruise movies, because I'm always looking for better ones. But I really enjoyed Tom Cruise's performance, and Ken Watanabe. He's in Inception and in a couple other movies. He's really good in this as well. He plays like the leader of the samurai. And other kind of big notes, yeah, I thought the acting was pretty good throughout. Most of the samurai are really good actors, and definitely kind of fit into that role really well. I thought the dialogue was okay and definitely pretty good. Just overall didn't have any problems with it. And something else I really enjoyed and thought was really good was the scenes of the movie and kind of the setting. For being a movie that was made in 2003, I thought some of the scenes were really like beautiful and really were able to like showcase Japan really well. So with that being said, that's kind of my preview to the movie without getting into spoilers. So if you haven't seen this movie and want to go watch it now and come back and go through the spoilers with me, this is your time to click off. But now I will go through kind of my analysis of the whole movie overall and what I found interesting and all that. So yeah, let's jump right in. So right off the bat, they kind of lead into the movie with this really cool like 3 or 4 sentence opening about honor in Japan, and you kind of see this warrior who ends up being the leader of the samurai. And I thought this was like a good way to open the movie. It brings you right into it, even though the movie doesn't like start with the samurai, but it brings you right into kind of the mind space that you'll be in to understand and learn a lot about the samurai. So I definitely thought that was a good. So yeah, at the beginning, Tom Cruise is a part of the army, and he's doing this like weird job where he's trying to like sell guns to people, and they have to like drag him out, which is funny. And he's like chugging alcohol, and then he does like this weird thing where he like shoots someone in the crowd almost, and like no one, when they're in the crowd, no one really like wants to buy the gun, and then he shoots like something in the crowd or someone in the crowd, I forget, but it's super weird because they're all like, yeah. And I'm like, why would you want to buy a gun after that? But I guess this is like the 1800s, so maybe I'm just 200 years late. I don't know. I just thought that was weird. Yeah, again, I thought the scenics, quote unquote scenics of the movie were pretty good. The setting of the scenes and the like background and cinematography I thought was really good. That was something I noticed pretty early on. Yeah, and so Tom Cruise's character has PTSD from a war before. He's kind of sent on this mission, and just another reminder that war sucks, and we have to see him like commit atrocities in the war he was in before. So yeah, I thought that was a decent kind of theme throughout the early part of the movie where he's having these like traumatic flashbacks. So that was something I noted. And then yeah, so into the first kind of battle of first he's assigned to be the leader of this kind of semi-quasi army against the samurai, where it's all these kind of Japanese people who don't really know how to fight. So seeing him kind of train them is funny, especially when they're trying to make him go to war early. And there's like this one guy who he knows like sucks at fighting. He's like, they're not ready, and then they're like, no, they're ready. We need to go now. And then he asked him to like shoot him, and he's like standing there, and the guy can't hit him for shit. He's like probably 20 feet away. That was definitely a funny scene. Enjoyed that scene. But eventually the samurai just pull up on the army training. So seeing this is kind of Tom Cruise's actually first like action scenes, and he's like a damn good fighter in this. He's like screwing with everybody. He's like the last one standing, kind of, because everyone either retreats or gets killed. And he ends up like killing this one guy, and that's when he ends up being captured, just because they decide to save him. But he is like a damn good fighter. That was just a note I took. And then once he's captured, he's kind of in this like dull mood for the first probably like 10 to 15 minutes of it, walking around like exploring the base and stuff. And I thought this was funny because he's like literally just an alcoholic throughout this. He's like he's always like, give me sake, and he's trying to like chug alcohol as much as possible and just like not give a shit about anyone. He comes into contact with Emperor, and the Emperor's like trying to like be like this like guiding presence to him and trying to like ingratiate him within the samurai, but he's like nah, and it's just like being super like a dickhead and just trying to like chug alcohol and stuff. So I thought that was funny at the beginning. And then he starts training eventually, and the other warriors kind of like gather around him in the village, and they start betting on him, which I thought was funny for like 1800s movie, that we always have gambling in our system, and it'll never leave, especially now. So yeah, one of my favorite scenes is when an opposing group of samurai pull up on the samurai camp. Oh yeah, it's a group of ninjas. So they pull up on the samurai camp, and when they're kind of having this like ceremony, and by this point Tom Cruise is like super ingratiated within the group, but they pull up, take him by surprise, and try to kill the Emperor. And this is when Tom Cruise goes like beast mode, and he's only been training for like a couple. This is like further in, but he's still like kind of on the borderline of being a samurai. And I thought this scene was really cool, where they're like trying to save the kids and save the Emperor, and all the samurai are doing battle. This is like the first kind of samurai versus ninja battle. I thought this was one of my favorite scenes. Definitely something that I'll like think about when I think back to this movie. Yeah, and then so eventually Tom Cruise like decides to leave, or they make him leave the samurai, and the kid is like super emotional because he's been staying with this family who kind of take him in, and it ends up that Tom Cruise's character killed the husband of the girl and their family that he's staying with, which I'll touch on later. But seeing this kid kind of being emotional was sad and made me feel pretty sad. Yeah, so eventually the army comes back that Cruise was leading at the beginning. And so in this scene, this is the Hans Zimmer scene that I was talking about earlier. He, when Cruise eventually goes back to join the samurai. So when he's back with the samurai, they kind of all are gearing up, getting ready for this army to come back. And I thought this scene was super awesome as well. I thought the Hans Zimmer track in this scene was super cool, and definitely made for like a good like ratchet up the tension battle scene. And this was another one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And then so then this battle finally happens, which is sick. They kind of try and do this like maneuver where they like fake attack them and stuff. It's pretty good. So that was another one of my favorite scenes, is this kind of climax in the movie where the army is fighting against the samurai, but they're still not really like trained totally, because at the beginning of the movie, Cruise is like, they're not ready, and it's obvious that they're still not ready. Some of them like run away, and the samurai are just going full attack on them. And this was obviously the climax of the movie. Was another one of my favorite scenes, so I just wanted to touch on that. It ends up that the Emperor ends up dead, and Cruise and a couple others like make it out alive because they don't want to kill him because he's American still. And then So it ends up happening like Tom Cruise and the girl that who he killed the husband of, they end up getting together through this like forced connection through the emperor forcing him to stay at her house, which I did not like this part. This is my least favorite part of the movie. So they they kiss at the end, and that was like the part that pissed me off the most. Did not really like that part just because it's like seems weird to me that she would have this turn of emotion so quickly and like just start falling in love with the guy who killed her husband. I thought that part was weird. That was another one. And then, yeah, so during this fight with the samurai and the trained army, they start using these freaking big guns, which I consider that cheating, man. Like, you're fighting samurai, just fight hand to hand, be a man. So that was another thing I reflected on. And then the last kind of thing I wanted to touch on before I get my score is the emperor in this movie. He's super weird, I think. At the beginning, they kind of cut to him, and he's sitting in this, like, hut-ish thing where they go up to him, and he's like, you have to, like, do all these things in order to, like, please him, like the Americans, and this kind of liaison between the Americans and the emperor and his people. So he's, like, kind of this weird, odd, like, shadowy figure and character in the movie. But by the end of it, he, like, ends up agreeing with Cruise's character and ends up, like, honoring the samurai, which is, like, kind of a weird turn, but I thought it was kind of a redemption arc for him because he turns against what he thought in the beginning, and there's some weird connection with, like, the emperor and how he knows him, but I didn't really pick up on all that. So I'll have to, if I rewatch it, I'll have to pick up on that again. But yeah, so overall, definitely enjoyed this movie. Definitely would recommend it to anyone just to watch it and experience it for the first time. This is my first time watching through it, so I really enjoyed it. And on my scale, I'm giving it an 8.0. So a great movie in my opinion, just barely on the great scale, but still a great movie nonetheless. Really enjoyed watching it and would recommend it to anyone. So yeah, this is it for the DubCast. First movie review in the books. If there's any movies you want me to review, leave them in the comments or message me on any of the social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. So yeah, keep it real. Be easy.